The icy winds of Jade Dragon Mountain howled through the skeletal trees like a dying beast. Fong adjusted the heavy fur collar of his coat, his breath forming thick white plumes in the freezing air. Behind him, Wei stumbled into a snowdrift, his boots completely soaked through by the treacherous ice. Sunken kept his gaze fixed on the ground, searching for any sign of movement amidst the dead silence. The village below was dying of starvation, leaving these three men with no choice but to hunt the high peaks.
Fong possessed the memories of a modern tactical survivalist, a secret weapon in this harsh primitive world.
Suddenly, the ambient sounds of the mountain completely vanished, leaving an unsettling, heavy silence. A low, sub-audible rumble vibrated through the frozen ground beneath their boots. From the dense thicket ahead, two massive, glowing red eyes emerged from the darkness. A monstrous tiger, the size of a warhorse, stepped into the open clearing, its breath freezing instantly. Wei let out a choked scream, his grip loosening on his rusty iron spear. The beast roared, a sound so powerful it shook loose snow from the high branches above. Sunken dropped to his knees, paralyzed by the sheer malevolent aura of the apex predator. Fong calculated their survival odds in an instant and realized ground combat meant certain death. He grabbed Wei by his collar and forcefully shoved him toward the thick trunk of the tree.
Climb the trees if you want to see your families alive again.
He roared at his companions. Spurred by survival instinct, Wei scrambled up the rough bark, tearing his fingernails to pieces. Fong turned back and kicked Sunken hard in the ribs to break his terrifying trance. Sunken scrambled like a maddened animal, leaping toward the lowest branch and pulling his body upward. The giant tiger bounded forward, its massive paws kicking up a blinding curtain of white snow. Fong leaped onto the trunk, scaling the rough wood with practiced athletic agility. The monster slammed into the base of the oak, making the entire massive structure shudder violently.
Wei nearly lost his grip, slipping off his branch before catching himself by his elbows.
Stranded 12 feet above the ground, Fong looked down into the snarling face of the beast. The tiger reared on its hind legs, its massive claws gouging deep trenches into the ancient wood. Reaching into his heavy leather pouch, Fong pulled out 3 small, clay-wrapped cylinders. These were his homemade black powder explosives, crafted in absolute secrecy using primitive village materials. The tiger jumped, its massive jaws snapping shut, mere inches beneath Fong's dangling boots. Fong struck a piece of flint against his knife blade, sending a shower of bright sparks onto the fuse. The fuse hissed violently, casting a volatile, sputtering orange glow across his determined face. He timed the creature's next breath, waiting for the perfect moment of maximum vulnerability. As the tiger opened its jaws for another deafening roar, Fong dropped the sizzling cylinder directly down. The predator swallowed the small object instinctively, its red eyes blinking in sudden confusion. A muffled, concussive boom echoed from deep within the massive beast's throat. Thick black smoke and deep crimson blood erupted from the tiger's nostrils as it collapsed sideways.
Wei let out a ragged breath, completely unable to believe the primitive magic he had just witnessed.
Yet, the monstrous apex predator scrambled back to its feet, driven by pure supernatural resilience. It let out a broken, wet gurgle, turning its heavily scarred face away toward the darker mountain trails. Fong slid down the rough trunk immediately, his boots hitting the bloody snow with a heavy thud. He looked deep into the pitch-black mountain woods where the wounded beast was retreating, knowing the true hunt had only just begun. The icy wind howls through the skeletal trees of Jade Dragon Mountain as Fong stares into the consuming darkness. He reaches down to touch a heavy, dark splatter staining the pristine white snow by his boots. The thick crimson fluid is still warm enough to melt the icy crust beneath it. Wei and Sunken slide down from their high branches, their bodies trembling from both cold and lingering adrenaline. Wei whispers hoarsely, asking if they should wait for dawn before pursuing a wounded apex predator. Fong shakes his head firmly, pointing out that the heavy snowfall will completely erase the tracks within an hour. He adjusts the heavy strap of his black market fire gun slung across his sturdy shoulder. The trio begins to march forward, stepping carefully into the deep, crunching snowbanks. Jagged shards of torn tiger flesh and burnt fur litter the path, evidence of the black powder explosion. Sunken points nervously to a massive tree trunk where the bark has been completely shredded by giant claws. Fong analyzes the staggering distance between the paw prints, realizing the beast is limping heavily. A distant rumbling growl echoes through the ravines, vibrating the very ground beneath their frozen boots. Chu Fong commands his companions to stay 20 paces behind him and ready their hunting spears. He pulls a heavy steel-tipped arrow from his leather quiver and notches it onto the bowstring. The trail leads them directly into a narrow, rocky gorge flanked by sheer stone walls. A sudden spray of loose pebbles cascades down the rocky slope ahead, alerting Chu Fong instantly. Out from the dark shadows emerges the horse-sized tiger, its chest completely blackened and bleeding heavily from the blast. The apex predator roars, spraying blood and saliva into the freezing mountain air as it prepares to leap. Chu Fong inhales deeply, stabilizing his racing heart as he draws the heavy bowstring all the way to his cheek. He releases the string, sending the steel-tipped arrow flying with absolute precision through the swirling snow. The missile embeds itself deep into the beast's wounded shoulder, forcing a high-pitched shriek of agony. The massive tiger tumbles down the rocky slope, crashing heavily into a deep snowbank at the bottom. Wang Wei and Sunken stumble backward, terrified that the thrashing monster will crush them. Despite its grievous injuries, the resilient predator forces its front legs up, snapping its jaws wildly.
Chu Fong drops his bow into the snow and swiftly unslings the heavy black market fire gun.
He pours a precise measure of priming powder from a horn flask into the flash pan. The tiger charges forward on 3 legs, covering the short distance with terrifying speed. Chu Fong plants his back foot firmly into the frozen earth, refusing to give an inch of ground. The massive beast leaps into the air, its shadow completely engulfing the hunter below. Chu Fong pulls the heavy iron trigger, unleashing a deafening roar and a massive cloud of yellow flame. The heavy lead slug tears directly through the tiger's throat, shattering its spine instantly. The enormous body crashes down like a fallen boulder, skidding heavily across the crimson-stained ice. Silence falls over the mountain gorge, broken only by the whistling wind and the men's heavy breathing. Wang Wei collapses to his knees, staring in utter disbelief at the dead king of the mountain. Chu Fong approaches the carcass, running a hand over the thick, pristine winter pelt of the giant beast. He notes with pleasure that the bullet entered the throat, leaving the valuable body fur entirely undamaged. He pulls out a sharp hunting knife and instructs the men to help him skin the beast before it freezes solid. For hours, they labor in the freezing cold, carefully separating the massive, heavy pelt from the flesh. They roll up the immense, luxurious pelt, knowing its incredible value will secure their family's survival for months. However, as they prepare to head down to the market, a cold realization strikes Chu Fong about the corrupt local officials. Old Tian, the greediest merchant aristocrat in the valley, has a monopoly on all high-tier beast trades. If they openly bring this legendary prize into the village square, it will surely draw his rapacious gaze. Chu Fong covers the prize tightly, vowing to outsmart any corrupt trap the wealthy merchant might set for them. He leads his weary partners down the steep slope, completely unaware of the greedy ambush already waiting for them at the trading post. Chu Fong leads his weary partners down the steep slope, completely unaware of the greedy ambush already waiting for them at the trading post. Wang Wei and Sunken struggle to haul the massive, blood-stained tiger pelt behind him through the deep snow. The flickering lanterns of Old Tian's trading post finally appear through the thick, swirling winter mist. Several armed guards standing outside the courtyard entrance watch their approach with cold, calculating expressions. Old Tian steps out onto the covered wooden porch, rubbing his hands together in mock warmth. Chu Fong stops a few paces back, his hand resting instinctively near the hidden hunting knife at his waist. The guards immediately step forward to seize the massive tiger pelt without waiting for an agreement. Old Tian tosses a single, insultingly small pouch of copper coins onto the snow at Chu Fong's feet. Sunken steps forward to protest the blatant theft, but a guard quickly levels a sharp spear point at his chest. Chu Fong looks down at the cheap bag of copper, his mind instantly analyzing the tactical disadvantage of an immediate fight. Old Tian chuckles darkly, advising the hunters to accept the meager payment before they lose something far more valuable than a beast skin. Chu Fong slowly bends down to pick up the pouch, whispering to his furious partners to retreat for now. The 3 hunters walk away into the darkness, hearing the mocking laughter of the guards echo behind them. Inside a ruined, abandoned hovel near the edge of the village, Wang Wei slams his fist against a rotting wooden beam. Sunken sits on a broken crate, staring blankly at the tiny pile of copper coins that cannot possibly feed their families for the winter. Fong remains standing by the broken window frame, his eyes fixed intently on the distant silhouette of Old Tian's massive grain warehouse. He pulls a small leather satchel from his coat, revealing 3 compact jars sealed tightly with wax. Sunken looks up in confusion, asking what those strange, heavy clay containers are meant to be used for. Fong explains that it is high-grade black powder mixed with sulfur, designed to burn intensely rather than explode violently. He outlines a precise plan to strike back at the merchant's most precious asset without endangering any innocent lives. The plan requires absolute stealth, utilizing the heavy midnight blizzard to completely mask their tracks and scent. Hours later, 3 dark figures wrapped in heavy black cloaks slip quietly out of the ruins and blend into the swirling snow. They approach the rear wall of Old Tian's vast grain storehouse, which stands completely unguarded due to the freezing storm.
Fong uses a long iron rod to silently pry loose a ventilation grate near the stone foundation.
He carefully slides the clay jars deep into the opening, positioning them directly beneath the structural support beams. Wang Wei unrolls a long, wax-coated, slow-burning fuse, connecting all 3 incendiary jars together. Sunken keeps watch at the corner of the building, his eyes scanning the snowy courtyard for any signs of patrolling guards. Fong pulls out a small metal tinderbox, striking the flint with a sharp, practiced motion to create a spark. The end of the fuse catches fire, hissing softly as a tiny, glowing orange ember begins to crawl toward the warehouse interior. Fong signals the retreat, and the 3 men instantly vanish back into the blinding curtain of falling snow. Minutes tick away in absolute silence as the slow-burning cord reaches the first hidden clay container. A sudden, muffled hiss erupts into a massive, roaring pillar of bright green and orange chemical fire. The intense heat quickly breaches the wooden exterior walls, casting a fierce, unnatural glow across the snowy village sky. Shouts of panic ring out from the guard barracks as men tumble out into the snow, carrying empty wooden buckets. Old Tian rushes onto his porch, in nothing but his silk undergarments, screaming wildly at his men to save the grain. From a safe distance on a snowy hill, Fong watches the chaotic scene with a cold, unforgiving expression. He knows this tactical strike will severely cripple the merchant's local monopoly without costing a single life. Turning his back on the burning compound, he tells his partners that this is merely the first lesson for anyone who tries to steal from them. The next morning, the village is filled with hushed rumors about the mysterious fire that targeted only the corrupt aristocrats' hoard. While the poor rejoice in secret, Old Tian stands before the smoking ashes of his warehouse, swearing a blood oath to butcher whoever crossed him. As Fong returns to his small cabin to check on his starving wife and daughter, he spots a strange, heavily armed mercenary group entering the village gates. The lead mercenary holds up a detailed drawing of a tactical hunter, asking the local villagers for any information regarding the identity of the man who hunts with black powder. Word of the mercenary investigation spreads like wildfire through the freezing mud lanes of the impoverished frontier village. Desperate neighbors cast suspicious glances toward Fong's small, crumbling stone courtyard. Inside the drafty home, Fong counts his remaining copper coins and silver pieces onto a rough wooden table. His starved daughter clutches his tattered sleeve, her eyes hollowed by months of severe structural village poverty. Fong gently pats her head, vowing silently that he will never let his family face starvation again. The sudden creak of the front gate announces the arrival of opportunistic extended family members looking for a handout. His greedy uncle demands a substantial share of the recent bear hunting profits, citing ancestral obligations and family duty. Fong steps over the threshold, his towering frame instantly casting a long shadow over the uninvited guests. Without uttering a single word, he draws his heavy hunting knife and plunges it deep into a nearby wooden post. The opportunistic relatives stumble backward into the mud, terrified by the modern soul's cold, uncompromising gaze. He orders them to leave his property immediately, making it clear that his wealth belongs solely to his wife and daughter. Realizing the village is no longer safe without serious firepower, Fong packs his total bear hunting profits into a heavy leather sack. He meets his trusted hunting partners, Wang Wei and Sunken, at a secluded crossroads beneath a dark pine canopy. Wang Wei warns him that buying illegal weapons from the black market could attract the attention of the regional governor. Chu Fong counters that without a private military arsenal, they will remain defenseless targets for corrupt aristocrats like Old Tian. Sunken leads the group deeper into the craggy foothills of Jade Dragon Mountain, following a trail marked by broken twigs. They arrive at the entrance of a hidden cavern system, concealed behind a thick curtain of frozen ivy and dry brambles. Two heavily armed guards emerge from the shadows, their crossbows leveled directly at Chu Fong's chest. Chu Fong slowly raises his hands, showing the bulging leather sack of silver to prove his intent as a serious buyer. A deep voice echoes from the darkness, commanding the guards to lower their weapons and let the hunters pass. Sitting behind a massive stone desk is Kui, the enigmatic black market dealer, draped in exotic animal pelts. Kui smiles thinly, noting that a simple village hunter rarely possesses enough wealth to enter his sanctuary. Chu Fong steps forward and slams the heavy sack of silver directly onto the center of the stone desk. He states his exact demand, requiring a private military arsenal of 20 operational fire guns and matching ammunition. Kui's eyes widen slightly at the sheer scale of the request, recognizing the tactical ambition of the hunter. The dealer warns that 20 fire guns are enough to arm a small rebel faction, which carries a death sentence if caught.
Chu Fong replies that starvation and vulnerability in the cursed village are already a slow death sentence.
Impressed by the hunter's cold resolve, Kui signals his men to bring out the heavy wooden weapon crates. The heavy iron crowbars screech as the wooden crates are pried open, revealing rows of pristine, grease-coated fire guns. Chu Fong lifts one of the heavy firearms, checking the spring mechanism flintlock and iron barrel integrity with a practiced hand. Finding the engineering acceptable, he nods to Wang Wei and Sunken to begin inspecting the rest of the private military arsenal. Sunken packs the heavy lead bullets and barrels of premium black powder into specialized waterproof leather sacks.
Kui counts the silver pieces meticulously, warning Chu Fong that any betrayal will result in an immediate bounty on his head.
Chu Fong assures the dealer that he only seeks to protect his territory and eradicate the apex predators of Jade Dragon Mountain. With the deal successfully concluded, the three hunters transport the massive arsenal back through the secret mountain trails under the cover of night. They store the 20 operational fire guns securely inside a hidden underground cellar beneath Chu Fong's fortified stone courtyard. Standing before his new arsenal, Chu Fong knows he finally possesses the military-grade firepower to challenge any threat. The next morning, his wife prepares a hearty meal using fresh grain bought with the remains of their hunting coin. His young daughter laughs merrily, her cheeks full and healthy, as she enjoys a warm, abundant breakfast for the first time. Watching his family eat in absolute safety and comfort, Chu Fong feels a profound sense of emotional closure. The structural village poverty and corrupt threats no longer hold power over his destiny, for he has reshaped the rules of survival. Armed with tactical cunning and an unstoppable private arsenal, the modern hunter stands ready to secure his family's absolute survival for generations to come.